I want to take you just on a visual tour of how to get the SQL Server samples, how to install them, and then how to work with them and kind of explore what's there. I shouldn't have to have a video on how to do this, but they have made it quite challenging to get all of this done. So I think it does help to have someone walk you through all of this. Now, let me just show you how you can tell if you already have the samples. In case you're watching this video out of sequence, so you didn't watch the previous videos in this chapter, the samples are not installed by default in SQL Server 2008. You don't get the sample databases, you don't get any of the sample projects. You've got to do a little bit of work to find them. And I'll show you how you can see if you have them, as well as how you can see where to get them. I could tell you, but I'll just as well show you, and it'd be a little bit easier. So I'm going to go just to my programs. I'm here on Windows 2008. Probably looks about the same on your Vista, Windows 2007, maybe a little different on Windows XP. But so I go to Microsoft SQL Server 2008, and I go to the documentation and tutorials. And you'll notice that's really all I have is the samples overview page. I don't have any other links, no folders, nothing like that. So I click, hey, samples overview. And it is just a local file that opens up in my default browser. And you can see the samples are no longer shipped with SQL Server. Why this is, I cannot imagine. The samples we're going to need for SSIS are a whopping 100 megabytes, and that includes the sample databases. It is just really strange that they left all of that off. Presumably, they left it off so that they would be able to fit everything on one disk, but I don't buy that because it's only 100 megs. I think they really want to pimp this codeplex.com website. Which, it's fine. This Codeplex got some great stuff on it. Big fan of the Codeplex website. Just not a big fan of complicating my life. Okay, let's just say that. So here you go. Here is the link right here. If you needed to write it down, you can look at it. It's right there. The codeplex.com/SQL Server samples, which in turn directs you to SQLServerSamples.codeplex.com. So I just click it and launch it in my browser here, and you can see. And so this is 2009. I'm not going to bother counting the links on this page, but imagine coming here as a brand new SQL Server. I'm so excited. I'm going to learn SQL Server, and I come to this, and all right, oh my God, what do I do? There are 500 links. I don't know what to do. Do I get the SQL Server gadgets for Vista? Sounds good. I'm running Vista. Should I do that? Is that the sample Microsoft wants me to get? It just drives me nuts when I love usability. I like trying, I design some of the parts of learnitfirst.com. I didn't design the main layout of the website, but I learned a lot during the design process about usability, and it just that kills me, just not knowing what to do. I would think, here, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Do I download this? Do I download that? It's just confusing. And if I download now, what am I downloading? Am I downloading everything on this page? I don't really know what I would be downloading. I think that's the latest samples. But I really honestly don't have a clue. So I want to show you how to navigate this page so that you can find what we need for this course. Okay, so for course 158, the SSIS 2008, we need two things. So we're going to, and I don't know if the page changes by the time you go to this Codeplex the Codeplex site. Maybe it does. Maybe it's a little better. Maybe it's easier to understand. What you need is the product samples. Okay, and you need the sample databases. Okay, that's what we're going to need. So we're going to need to download the product samples. So we're going to go to the download page for that, which is under the downloads up here. You can see how it redirected us up there to SQL Server Samples. So I want to download these. Now, if you take a look at the links here, you'll notice that each one of these is without DBs. So that means that you've got to download the databases separately. I don't understand why. This is like a 35 megabyte file. The databases is like a 60, 65 megabyte file. Give me one file. Come on, really? But sorry. Choose your platform, right? You could see the difference there, whether you're on 64-bit, 32-bit, or Itanium architecture, 64. In this particular case, I'm on the x86, so I just click it, respond to the EULA, agree, and I choose to download the file. I've actually already downloaded it, so I'm going to click cancel. All right, so now I need to get the sample databases, right? So on this page, thankfully, if I do scroll down a little bit here, you will need to download the AdventureWorks family of databases. So I can click on that. That brings me to another page. This is the Service Release 1, SR1. They're on service SR2 right now, but still an alpha. This is basically the re-release of the samples. And you, again, get that same choice. Do you want to do the x64 or the x86? So these are all of the databases that we have. So you can see, again, it's less than 60 megabytes here. Okay. We want to get whichever one you want. You want the all databases. You do not want the light version, the light 2008. You want the all databases one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get the all databases. I'm on an x86, so I would again download this. I've also downloaded that one as well. So if you are, by the way, if you just came in, just show you how to straight get to the AdventureWorks if you just wanted to apply those. If you did go back to the documentation and tutorials to the samples overview and click through to the CodePlex site, eventually you'll find the link. Like right today, it's up here, download the AdventureWorks family of sample databases. You'd be able to click through to get it there. It's down here under sample databases. If you scroll down there and then you go to the project site and then you go to the downloads and, you know, get it. So install it once you get it. That's a pretty simple feature. I've already gone through, like I said, and I've downloaded these. So I've put them in my downloads folder. You could see I've got the x86 version. All I'm really going to do is install them. I'm going to install, it doesn't matter really which order that you choose. I'm going to install the databases first because all of the samples are built on top of them. So it just kind of makes sense to me. So I say run. And I just say next. You can see that I'm on SR1, the refresh service release, refresh samples refresh 1, whatever SR stands for in that case there. Respond to the EULA. Notice that it does default to actually creating the databases on my instance. Put a shortcut on the desktop. It will put a program shortcut in there for the samples folder. So which server? Notice that it reads that I have these two instances. Be very careful with the installation. There's a great warning here. You do have to have both the file stream and full text search installed and enabled for it to be able to install the AdventureWorks 2008. If you don't, you're going to have an error and it will not be successful. Okay? So there you go. We say install, and no sense in going through and watching it do the attach and everything here. That's going to be a fairly trivial thing. The next bit would be to come over here and run the samples without DBs, and then that would install the SQL Server samples. Okay? So fairly simple. Tell you what, while it's running that, I'm going to go run those samples. It's going to give us that same thing. It may not let me do it since there is another installation going. I just don't want to make you sit here while it finishes copying files, that's all. So really the installation of this one is an almost identical screen that we see. This is where it may freeze me out. No, it lets me go through. So see, you could see it's almost the same thing. It's just telling it where's it going to install the sample files, and you can look right here is where it defaults to doing that. The 100 folder, the 10.0 folder. 10.105 for R2. Right? So that's it, and I'm going to tell it to do a desktop shortcut as well, and that's Well, now it actually blocks me from doing it, but that's fairly it. Let's see, did it finish up over here? Full text search isn't done. So now I've got to go rerun my SQL Server setup. I thought I had that already installed. Install SQL Server's full text search for me to get that running. Okay, so that's not going to be fun. Show you how to actually do that. Let me install these samples here while I'm doing that. So now I need to install the full text, right? I actually did think I had that installed. But you get to see a little bit of what happens when it doesn't work. I've got the SQL Server disk in, and so I just launched that, and I'm going to go add features. You could as well have gone to your control panel. You could have gone to the programs and features, or all programs, whichever system that you're on. You could have gone to the SQL Server and let it bring that up. Such a fast screen, blinding. You can go to your SQL Server, you can right click and change it up, and you could have told it you wanted to add features, right? And then it just pops you over to, and dang it, I hit the network, pops you over, and then you choose your setup CD, right? I mean, so the same thing will happen regardless of which route that you took. But for the installation, I want to add features to an existing installation. You see that right there. So I'm on the installation tab, and I just go through the setup, and it looks like our samples over here have finished. And while the SQL Server setup is running, when we go over to the programs now, you can see the community and samples being installed. And so there's our first visual cue that we do have the samples installed. And let's go over here. Some of this stuff is going to take it a little bit to actually go through and do. So let's go ahead and click next whenever we need to. Here we have the sample portal, which is just a website. Let me install the setup files, which is just sort of a page. Come up and give us this info. Right, it's just taking us to the CodePlex website. If you need to go back to it, forgot what it was. What it's installed, let's take a look at the actual folder. This is the sample code. You can see down here that it's broken into several sections here. We're going to be interested in the samples down in here. That's where we're going to be playing. You could see the integration services. Now, let me explain what the difference between integrated samples and integration services is. Integrated samples are the samples that make use of multiple tools. So it's going to be a case where we integrate the database engine analysis services and integration services, for example. Okay? And then you can see there is a local how to get started with this, things you have to do. I don't need you to read any of that stuff. I just need you to have this stuff installed so that later on when we are working with this, we'll be able to run all of the samples. Okay. So I'm going to add my new features over here, and my feature selection is just going to be the full text search, which is installed. So then the next step is going to my configuration manager. Is it not running? Full text is not running. You see it stopped. Okay. And I can't start it up because it's disabled. Okay. Well, so we got an incorrect error message there. So let's set that to be automatic. Seems like that samples thing should have told me, well, the full text search service needs to be started before we can go. So I can safely close out of my setup. Go back and run the databases again. I believe that I have file stream enabled. Pretty sure. It didn't tell me I didn't, so let's go ahead and I'm waiting for the samples to load up. When you get these MSI files, if you've seen these before, what the operating system does is it loads it up into memory. So you got to wait for it to load the whole thing into memory. Did I not double click on that? Yeah, okay. Run. I must not have done it. Let's try it again. Go through, desktop shortcut, yes, 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 install. Be nice if you know how in the SQL Server installation it has that configuration check. Won't let you continue if you don't meet the prereqs. Sure would have been nice there, right? Well, it took quite a long time. I don't know if it's this slow machine that I'm on. I've got just a virtual machine that's running and virtualized hard disks, and so it's not that fast. But it's done. It's finished. It's ready. It's all here for me. So go back over here now. You see the communities and samples doesn't really change from that perspective. We come over here to the documentation and tutorials. Nothing really over here. But what we really see the changes is when we go to the management studio. We log in. You can see if slowness here. And when we log in, we're going to see the AdventureWorks database over here on the left-hand side. I've got mine configured to show us the Object Explorer. So sure enough, we get to see all these fun little AdventureWorks databases. So I had it install all of them. We're actually going to use the the AdventureWorks 2008 and the AdventureWorks 2008 data warehouse. And we may play with some of the other ones in our samples and so forth. But once you have this and the samples installed, you're good to go.